Okay, let's dive into this. Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're tackling a massive financial milestone, one that honestly causes a whole lot of anxiety for people. I'm talking about the leap from just saving your money to actually investing it. You've done the responsible thing, right? You've built up your savings. But there's probably this nagging feeling in the back of your mind that you're leaving money on the table. And usually it's just the fear of losing it that's holding you back. Well, today, we are going to completely dismantle that fear. Oh, and by the way, if you find this explainer informative, please subscribe to our channel for more. So picture this. You've been incredibly disciplined, and you've managed to stash $10,000 in your savings account. Awesome, right? Then you check your banking app a whole year later, expecting a nice little reward for your financial maturity, and what do you see? 50 bucks. Yeah, that is the frustratingly measly return on a $10,000 savings account earning 0.5% interest over an entire year. It's enough to make literally anyone wonder, wait, am I doing this wrong? Well, the good news is you aren't doing it wrong. But you might only be halfway there. Here is our roadmap to get you the rest of the way today. We'll be covering the saving illusion, math versus psychology, the 5-step investing path, and finally, the magic of consistency. All right, part 1, the saving illusion. Now, this might sound a little controversial at first, but doing the responsible thing, and by that I mean just saving your money, will almost never actually make you wealthy. Don't get me wrong, saving is absolutely crucial, but it is not the final goal. It's just stage 1. You see, these two financial vehicles have completely different jobs. Savings protect your money. Investments grow your money. It's kind of like you wouldn't ask a shield to do the job of an engine, right? In the exact same way, you can't ask a basic savings account to build long-term wealth. Which brings us to part 2. Math versus psychology. And this brilliantly illustrates the core conflict every single saver faces. We're talking about the undeniable logic of compound growth versus the emotional fear of losing your hard-earned cash. Just look at the math here. Imagine you start with that same $10,000. If you just leave it in savings, say earning 1% for 20 years, you end up with about $12,200. Not terrible. But if you invest that money, well, historically, the S&P 500 stock market has returned about 10% per year on average over long periods. In 20 years, that exact same $10,000 becomes roughly $67,000. Same starting money, completely different outcome. Because of that math, we arrive at this really powerful truth. The biggest wealth gap out there isn't usually between people who spend and people who save. Nope, it's actually between people who save and people who make the leap to investing. The gap isn't created by making more money from your job. It's created by what your money actually does once you already have it. But let's be real, we know the reason most people don't take that leap isn't because they don't get the math. It's the psychology. Saving feels safe, right? You can see it, it's stable, it's always there. Investing, on the other hand, feels risky. It's volatile. Your balance can drop 5% on a random Tuesday afternoon for literally no obvious reason. And if you're thinking, listen, I just don't want to lose my savings, I want to tell you that is a totally fair, valid, emotional response. That emotional volatility is exactly what scares people away from the market. And honestly, it's exactly why you shouldn't make the transition all at once. So, let's get into part 3, the 5-step investing path. This is our practical roadmap to help you transition into investing in safe, highly manageable stages. First, we build an emergency fund. Second, we create mental buckets. Third, start small. Fourth, stick to simple investments. And fifth, practice consistency. Let's break these down step by step. All right, step 1 is building a real emergency fund. Before you invest a single dollar, you need 3 to 6 months of living expenses saved up in cash. Why? Well, because this money is your buffer against unexpected life problems. A job loss, a crazy medical emergency, your car breaking down. Life happens, right? The biggest reason people panic sell their investments at a massive loss is simply because they need cash too soon. A solid emergency fund protects your investments from your own life. So the crucial point is separating your money mentally. That's step 2. Think of your finances in 2 distinct buckets. Bucket 1 is your safety money. This is your emergency fund. It sits in a high-yield savings account, it's safe, and it doesn't move. Bucket 2 is your growth money. Because you have bucket 1 totally securing your life, bucket 2 is actually allowed to fluctuate. Its only job is to grow over the long haul. Believe it or not, this simple mental accounting trick will drastically reduce your investing anxiety. Once your mind is in the right place, step 3 is to start small. Look, a lot of beginners are under this illusion that you need thousands of dollars to even start investing. You absolutely do not. Actually, scratch that. Many platforms literally let you start with just 50 or 100 bucks. Your goal right now isn't to make massive profits. Your goal is simply building the habit and the muscle memory of investing. Habit always beats timing. Moving on to step 4, focus on simple investments. This is exactly where beginners tend to trip up. They want to jump straight into complicated day trading, options, or crazy crypto speculation. Please don't do that. The simplest investments almost always outperform the complicated ones over time. Index funds are fantastic because they just track the overall stock market. Instead of trying to guess and pick one winning company, you just buy into hundreds of companies all at once. You get instant diversification, way lower risk, and steady long-term growth. It's simple, it's boring, and it works. And hey, you don't just have to take my word for it. Legendary investor Warren Buffett has repeatedly recommended low-cost index funds for most investors. I mean, when one of the most successful wealth builders in human history tells you that the simple, boring route is the absolute best path for the average person, it's definitely worth listening to, right? Finally, part 4, the magic of consistency. Okay, we've set up our simple, small investments. Now look at what happens when you actually apply discipline. Imagine you invest just $300 a month into the stock market. If it averages an 8% return, after 25 years, you'd have roughly $285,000. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is that you only contributed $90,000 out of pocket. That massive chunk, almost $195,000, comes purely from compounding growth. Literally, that is your money working for you. Let me give you a visual analogy to really anchor this entire explainer. Saving money is kind of like storing seeds in a glass jar. You are protecting them perfectly, sure, but nothing is ever going to grow in there. Investing is like taking those seeds and planting them in the dirt. At first, it looks messy, you don't see results immediately, but give it time. Things take root, they grow, and eventually, you have a harvest that is far bigger than the original seeds you planted. But I know what you're thinking. What about the weather? What happens when the market crashes? Well, market crashes are totally normal. They've happened dozens of times throughout history. Experienced investors stay calm because they think in decades, not days. They actually view market downturns as a discount sale. Because you're investing consistently every single month, when the market drops, your regular contribution simply buys more shares at lower prices, and that leads to much stronger returns when the market inevitably bounces back. It all comes down to this core philosophy. Saving money gives you stability, but investing gives you freedom. As a focused learner, you already understand that this isn't an either-or situation. Combining both stages, having your safety bucket for stability and your growth bucket for freedom, is the absolute ultimate key to building a powerful, unshakable financial future. So, I want to leave you with this final thought to chew on as you reflect on your own financial habits. Are you currently sitting in the saving stage, or have you already taken the leap into the investing stage? If it's the former, it might just be time to take those seeds out of the jar. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I'll see you next time.